What's going on? Today we're going to talk about our history. All right. Our history goes back deep on this planet. Okay. Trillions of years. All right. This is the feathered serpent. All right. That our bloodline comes from. All right. We don't come from Africa. We are not African. Okay. And we're going to discuss our bloodline today. It's not going to be long, but we're going to have a pretty in-depth discussion because we have to bring ourselves back to the reality of who we are, okay, as the original people. All right. So let's get into this message, okay? The feathered serpent, all right, which is one of the most mystical creatures known in the history of our planet. And we, as the original beings, our bloodlines tie directly into the feathered serpent. All right. It's a prominent supernatural entity, deity, that was found in many of the Mesoamericans. When you're talking about the Mesoamericans, you can't just talk about the Aztecs and the Mayans and not talk about us here. All right. Because we were all together when you started talking about Egypt and the original Egypt. And you see that on the top of our heads were the serpent. All right. And many would say, well, the serpent represents the Kundalini energy. No, the serpent was representing the feathered serpent. All right. Known as Quetzalcoatl. All right. Also known as Kukulkan. All right. Kukulkan. All right. I had to get the name right. Kukulkan. All right. And that was with the Mayans and Aztecs. So the symbol that we had as the Atlanteans, or also known as the Egyptians, all right, because the original Egyptians, Egypt, the word Egypt is a Greek word, which shows that we were the original Greeks. Okay, let's get into this right here. This is our history. All right, this is our history. This is where we come from as the original. So this is something that was on the walls, which called Mesoamerica. But like I said, it also represented us as the people of the feathered serpents. Okay, extremely mystical, extremely powerful beings of power. Okay, let's get into this. As you can see, what you call Egyptian also deals with the feathered serpent. Okay, also deals with the feathered serpent. We're talking about history that was destroyed. And it was destroyed so that we would not know who we were. Okay, why did we have these beings come in and invade our land to make us think that we were something that we're not? Because we would not be able to identify what our true history. Okay, so let's move into this here, because what you call the Egyptians also shared the same factors as those as known as the Mayans and as the Aztecs. We were all one people. Okay, so let's go into this deeper, because the whole entire what you call North America is Mesoamerica. All right, they don't want to talk about the pyramids that were up in Canada. All right, they don't want to talk about that. Our land was invaded. by beings that are not from here. Okay. You can also see here where it shows the feathers, which represents the feathered serpent. Okay. This is written on our walls. This is our history. All right. This is our history. And this is something that we must embrace. This is something we must come back to. As you see right here, see the feathers there, which represents the feathered serpent or the feathered serpent beings. This is us, the original people of this land, which they call America, which originally was Egypt, but we named it Atlantis. Atlantis wasn't just down in Tehuantepec, which is now Mexico. It wasn't just down in Tehuantepec. It was this entire island, what they call Turtle Island, which is Atlantis. Okay, so this represents the feathered serpent. Now let's show you the difference between us and the Africans, who are the Chitauri. They're Chitauri reptilians. All right, let's complete different. Okay. All right, so you've seen this individual before. I've done a video about this individual who tells the history of the Chitauri and how they're sexually compatible with the women, with their women, which are, which they come from a completely different planet. They're not original. Chitauri are not original to this land. So many different stories. When you say land means planet. Chitauri is not original to this planet. Chitauri are reptilians. Reptilians are serpents are completely different species of beings. Okay, the serpents are more so dragons. All right, when you talk about the feathered serpent, you're talking about dragon people. All right, when you talk about dragons are not lizards. That's number one. Dragons are not lizards. And when you're talking about the reptilians, you're talking about a lizard type of people, which are completely different than the original beings, which are the serpent people. So let's get into this right here, okay? This is a drawing of the Chitauri people, which are known as the Africans. They're the Chitauri. All right, they're reptilian type species of beings. It's been shown that they eat meat raw. There's so many different things that they do. They are a completely different type of people, which are not us. They resemble us, but they're not us. They're what you call dark-skinned beings, but they're from a completely different star system, completely different galaxy within this universe. Okay? This guy right here, which is an African elder, he talks about how the Chitauri are linked into the Zulu, linked into Rwanda, linked into Kenya, they linked into Nigeria. So it's like he named off some different what you call tribes. They call countries, but they're tribes. You have the Zulu tribe, the Kenya tribe. So they're talking about all these different. Also, he talked about the Igbo. All right, how they are linked into the Igbo. So all of your pretty much your people in Africa are the Chitauri. They don't resemble us, as you can see. They don't resemble us. Completely different species of beings. All right, and they're not original to the planet. So right now, the battle that's going on right now is the reptilian versus the serpent. All right. And it talks about, how they supposedly, it talks about in the book of Revelation about the serpent, how they were supposed to have taken down the serpent. All right. They were supposed to have taken down the serpent, and the serpent was supposed to have been casted into the lake of fire, or casted into the casted into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, which is like a sleep state. They talked about this. So the Bible is all African. So many brothers and sisters want to battle this because they're trying to depend on mainstream educational system, but you cannot depend on the mainstream educational system because the mainstream educational system literally takes us into a completely different place where it lies to us. Our ancestors wore feathers because we knew that we were a part of the Feathered Serpent bloodline. All right. We knew this. All right. Like, Cuckoo Khan, which was another name for the Feathered Serpent. We knew about our history. We knew about this. This is something that we knew we were a part of. All right. The wear that we did, which was a part of the Mesoamerican wear, the feathers, this is a part of our history. All right. I want you to remember this. This is a part of our history. Those Siberian Asians that are not being called out as Siberian Asians were brought here. All right. They were brought here in ships. They came in as Slavs. Okay. And basically from that point, they went to these boarding schools where they were taught to be us. After years of teaching them that they're us, and now their whole cycle was broken up. Just like I said, our brothers, this is what we were. And this is a part of the Mesoamerican, extremely powerful, mystical people that we are. Nothing African about us at all. All right. The only thing that we can resemble is probably the color of our skin. But other than that, we're not those people. Okay. So we're looking at the history of who we are. All right. The children of the Feathered Serpent. All right. And we know we did the video about how our planet is literally dragon planet. All right, we did this right here, and it's important that we understand our culture. We wore crystals, we wore different metals. That was our culture, and we lost sight of our culture because we've taken on something that we're not a part of. All right, we've lost sight of our culture. Like I said, this is the reason why we wore the feathers, because this is in our history. And I took you all the way back to ancient Egypt. All right? We're the original Egyptians. All right? It goes back in our history, even in ancient India, what is now known as ancient India. It represented us as the serpent beings. As you can see, this is a brother right here, the so-called black man, so-called black woman. All right, you can see by the high cheekbones, the broad nose, the thick lips. This is our people, and it shows the brother dancing with a serpent woman, and this is in our ancient history. Okay, so we are literally, you can see the feathers. You see the feathers in the back of his head right there? See that right there? Those are feathers. All right, you can see right here. See right here? All right there. Those are feathers on his back. All right? See right there? There's feathers on his back. You got feathers around his head. So this is the depiction of our people, okay, in the ancient world. And we've been fought against by the Chitauri, the reptilian beings who have this desire to conquer worlds. All right? They're a type of being that are very persuasive in the nature of who they are. They're extremely persuasive. And their whole ordeal is to rule over It's the rule over resources, the rule over people. That's their whole ordeal. So your whites people, the whites and those what you call Asians are also a part of the reptilian agenda. So they had to create their people. White people are not indigenous to anywhere. Asian people are not indigenous to anywhere. They are created people. So the Jatari reptilians, known as the African, they created these beings. All right. We already told you about Zeus. Zeus is, he took it upon himself to create these beings. That's why, you got to understand when they say Jesus is a compound word. J-E is God, S-U-S is Zeus, God Zeus. So you understand when these Jatari, known as the Africans, they came here, they introduced us to this Jesus because we knew ourselves as gods. All right. So this is how this is a representation of our ancient world. Like I say, you see the wings on the back of this brother. You see the feathers around his head. All right. We're the serpent beings or the serpent deities. All right. Let's go a little deeper. Okay. And some of the ancient Africa speaks of Credo Mutwa. All right, which are reptilian aliens, which are literally the creators of those who you call the Africans. All right, they're gods. All right, the Mutwa, and it's in ancient African history. Ancient African history, even the Africans themselves, because so many of them are so engulfed with telling us that we are them. They don't know their own history. All right? They don't know their own. They haven't studied their own history. They don't know who they are. But they steadily want to tell us that we are them because they're trying to, their whole agenda is to get us to break the silence. All right? Break the silence. They need us to cause ourselves to think that we are them when we are not. We're serpent beings. They're reptilian beings. Completely different. You're talking about dragon beings and lizard beings. Dragons are not lizards. Dragons are serpents. Lizards are lizards. Lizards are reptilians. Dragons are serpent. Lizards are reptilians. That's the difference. Reptilians and serpents are completely different. Okay. All right. These are old pictures of our people, and we still carry the feathers on the back of we carried the feathers and all because we knew who we were. We knew our identity. All right. As Egyptians. All right. This is also pictures of us. And we've lost this identity since then, especially since, you have mainstream education, mainstream media, mainstream science. All right. But this is our people. All right. You see the one with the cross right there? The cross had nothing to do with Christianity. It had nothing to do with the church. We're going to discuss some of those a little later. Okay. But, these are our people. And we knew that we were a part of the serpent bloodline. This is what we knew we were part of, the serpent bloodline. And this is something that we have to really do a deep study on. Extremely wise, intelligent, and spiritual and mystical beings that we were. Okay? These are the people who are supposed to be depicting us. They're what's known as Native Americans. Yet still, they haven't built one pyramid. They haven't built one gateway. They haven't built any powerful buildings. They don't even know that we represent the serpent dragon energy. They don't understand this. All right. The only thing that they know they want to do is play like they're us. They want to play like they're us. They want to act like they're us. And this is not even our history as the original beings. They have no rhythm. They have no culture. There's nothing about them that is authentic. They don't even understand why our people wore the feathers, because we knew that we carried the serpent bloodline. Okay? So you have to understand that these beings are being called out. Now, the problem that I have is, though they're being called out, what of these whites who run around here? Who's calling them out? Say, hey, you were created in laboratories, so what about you? Where did they go? That's a good question, huh?
Wake up, do your research, learn your true history. Wake up, stay woke.
Everything we've been taught in the American education system is all a lie. Yes, Native Americans weren't the original people of this land. We actually took it from black people. We were so good at it that we just wiped out any trace of their language and their culture. Well,
The time
This is a reptilian being. They were created by the Chitauri. And they were set over here. And we got proof. We got proof.
I'm trying to be cool, but God dang.
As you can see, it's called Native Americans. They came from Africa. You can see that, right?